What's up, YouTube? I want to talk about the American caste system. And pretty much the American caste system is just composed of this hierarchical principle that puts black on the bottom and white at the top. Now, if you study anthropology or if you just somewhat familiarize yourself with anthropology and the study of humans or whatnot, you would know that the humans is a one race of people or of a species. And from this species, you have nationalities, or you can call them ethnicities for the matter. But I mean, ethnicities, you have to look at what ethnicity really means. Because, I mean, once again, if you look at the etymology behind ethnicity, the ETH, the F means, it denotes to a person of being so called black. But just to keep it on that level, I'm going to say nationalities stem from the human race. And in America, they have a very unique system, which is, like I said, is composed of a hierarchy, um, with white being on top, black being on bottom. And people have pretty much identified with these pseudonyms that, okay, I'm black, you're white, or I'm white, you're black. It doesn't matter. When if you look at someone's skin, I mean, you can say, okay, this paper, this is white. This lanyard, this part is black. So I mean, you really can never find anybody as white as this paper or as black as this part of this lanyard. And I mean, it just goes to show you that how uh, pretty much confounded and confined the mindset has been in America as being uh, this land of just freedom that people in ideas and expression that people really think that they're black or they're white. When I mean, if you look at the skin complexion, is a lighter hue, and then from now you got the darker hue. So no one in actuality is black. And when I did a video, one of my first videos I ever did on YouTube was talking about black versus white. So I just want to do like a pretty much a summary or a re-summary of it again or a recap to tell you that there's really nobody that's considered black or white. I mean, these are all nothing more than just segregating tools in order to keep us segregated and keep parameters around us, and to keep this so-called race game, keep it going, to keep us once again separated and let us pretty much be overconsumed by our hatred. So I mean, this whole black America, white America, uh, I'm black, you're white, they're just misnomers. They don't really exist besides in the minds, and they're adopted from India, their caste system, which kind of stems from Hinduism, and um, it's pretty much been refined. And I mean, black really, so-called black people have been identified with so many different names. I mean, colored, African American. I mean, you can't really be two continents at once, be African and American. I mean, we really, pretty much, we should just be calling ourselves Americans for the matter. If you want to just keep it on a form of politics, I guess, but you could say American rather than say African American, white American. I mean, no one else on the planet besides in America and probably other parts of like um, um, colonized places, they don't call themselves white or black, but only in places where it's been colonized, they call themselves white and black. And it all stems down to like civil rights and sovereignty and all that whole other stuff that you really have to do a lot of research into. I mean, you look at, I was reading an article about South Africa and how Chinese people can now assume the title of being black people in order to receive benefits. And you have people that come from parts of so-called North Africa. Once again, they separate sub-Sahara from uh, the Sahara or from the rest of Africa and try to segment to different parts when it's just one big continent. And I mean, Africa, there's no such thing as North, South, East, West Africa. It's just Africa. But I mean, once again, you have to segment it into different parts in order to keep people separated. So you have people that come from North Africa, so-called, come over here in America, and they're assumed to be Caucasian or white, and their skin tone could be way darker than mine, but they're considered Caucasian or white because it's just the caste system being in check. And versus somebody, there was a guy that was from Egypt, um, about my complexion, a little bit darker, and he wanted to become black in Detroit. This is a while ago. I think it was in the '90s, and they said he couldn't become black because of he's from that part in North Africa where they're considered to be white. but he wanted to be black because he wanted to receive some kind of benefits from the government so he could form his own business. But they continue to label him as being a white person because he's from that part of Africa, and that's how pretty much they were able to, let's say, sort of take control of Africa and still have you. I mean, you still have slavery and physical slavery in I think it's Mauritania, because of these misnomers that people identify with being black and white, and that's why you still have uh, the economical apartheid in South Africa because people are identifying with being black and white being the higher on the caste system versus black, and that's why people get more time in terms of the prison system and how they work is because black is still 3/5 human due to the three fifths compromise. So we're we're still not fully liberated because we constantly call ourselves black and African American, and these are still these are still brands. Versus a person that's white, they won't get as much time versus a person that's black, and that's what makes it so unique about the American law system is that people they try to really preach this racism and that they're racist, but I mean it's really they don't deal with attitudes. They deal with more like science and actual law and all that law and order versus just dealing with an attitude because that's all racism is an attitude. You have to bring up a stronger remedy, and that's what pretty much undoubtedly Malcolm X was starting to discover was that this is bigger than this black and white thing. When he went to his journey to Mecca and he had this sort of this so-called enlightenment, he realized this black and white thing is not necessarily true. It's an illusion. And you can hear it in one of his speeches. I forgot the actual one in my phone. I put it in there, where he talks about white being the adjective, and it's just basic grammar. I mean, people don't. You shouldn't identify with being an adjective because if you look at black and white, it's lowercase and um, versus like Mexican, Chinese. These are actual nationalities that are capitalized and they're proper nouns. But black and white are being adjectives. We're not uh, fully recognized as being actual humans, but just being cattle to the American government or to the American corporation, because this is nothing more than a corporation, not even a government anymore. But I mean, if you look up the Federal Directive 15, it talks about like how they classify black, white, Chinese, and so-called Native Americans, and it says that it's not to be anthropological or scientifical in nature. They're just classifications, and they're telling you right there that this isn't necessarily true. It's just how we classify people and how we separate people, and that's why black people, so-called black people, are bounded to these territorial places that where they aren't able to flourish versus white people because once again, these are brands, and that's why we get more time, and that's why we're dealt more forcibly or forcibly by the police, and they use more brute force because I mean, though it's some sort of discrimination that's been engendered in these people to attack so-called black people, but I mean, the people at like on a federal level, they know that oh, black people these are nothing more than slaves, and that's why you won't ever receive reparations because it's wrongdoings for a nation, not for slaves. They don't have to repair anything because you're not a nation. Reparations, so repairing a nation. So black people aren't necessarily a nation. They're just classified as being these lower class citizens. And that's the problem. They're citizens. They're not humans. So they're just partial citizens, which even makes it even worse. So that's why they can bounce you around the court system, not take you to the federal level where you'll actually receive remedy. Because they're pretty much it's all type of violations of uh, just the rights of so-called black people and what they've been bounded by for so long of time now. So just want to clear up the whole caste system in America and why it's really important that people look into that and people just watch how you say black and white because you never really see anybody black or white. There's no one that exists as being black or white. These are misnomers that people had to just stray away from and stop calling themselves black and white because there's no such thing. I mean, you have people from Africa, well, I have friends from Africa who come over and they cling onto their nationality. They don't ever say, well, they might say now because they're used to American culture, but I'm black, I'm white. They'll say, okay, I'm this nationality This is where I come from because they take pride in their heritage.
It's 23
Versus,
hours.
sorry about that noise you probably heard, but they don't really pay attention to black and white. But that's just a whole thing in America. It's a caste system. So peace out.